On this episode, we have a guest from all the way across the country in New York. He's going to be talking sports with us and talking about his podcast network called The Legion of Greatness. You don't want to miss this episode of The Game Time Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
What is good, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Game Time Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, your host. Here on the show, we're tuning in for episode 72 now, which is awesome. 72 episodes of the show. It's growing. Thank you so much. We're starting off the month of August with a lot of momentum because last month the show continued to grow. So big shout out and special thanks to all my guests so far. If you haven't done so already, make sure to go to Audible, get your free audiobook download through Audible through the 30-day free trial. If you go to audibletrial.com/thegametimeguru, audibletrial.com/thegametimeguru, that will get you your free 30-day free trial on Audible to get a free audiobook download, and you can listen to it at your own convenience. It's awesome. So make sure you check that out. Okay, so first off, we've got an awesome discussion coming up. I got some questions lined up for our guest, and I want to introduce him to everybody. He's all the way across the country, and he's a talk show host, and he has his own podcast network. So him and I have been, talking via social media, and we finally were able to get this interview scheduled, and I'm just excited to have him. So without further ado, I've got Smoochy Davis in the house with me today. Smoochy, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you.
Yeah, thanks, Smoochy. And where are we talking to you from, sir?
I'm here from New York City. A lot of great sporting events going on, especially if you are a Yankees fan.
Right. So are you a Yankees fan? Because rumor has it, you're from New York and you're not a huge fan of all the New York teams in regards to football and basketball, but what about baseball?
Yes, I am a big-time Yankee fan. If you want to do something, you want to put something on your bucket list, you have to go to a Yankee game. You have to.
I'm not even a huge baseball fan, to be honest with you, but I do have that on my bucket list. That would be something that would be amazing to go and experience. Are you from New York? Have you been there your entire life? And also, how many games have you been to for the Yankees? You're just bringing that up right now. I just want to know.
Yes, I've grown up in New York. I've been to God knows how many Yankee games. I used to have an aunt that was literally, you could watch the Yankee games right above her balcony. So, hey, Yankees, when they were in the World Series, instead of paying an arm and a leg and a foot for the World Series tickets, you could literally watch the World Series from her balcony. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I bet it was pretty awesome. I mean, that's a story you can actually tell to your grandkids, man. So not too many people have that experience or, can actually share that experience with many people. So that's awesome. So in regards to basketball, though, like I said earlier, rumor has it you're not a huge New York fan when it comes to basketball. I want to know who your basketball team is. Share that with us. Share who your favorite basketball team is and explain why for us, because I thought it was a little bit interesting.
Okay. I am a Phoenix Suns fan. Why? Because I was just tired of being heartbroken year in and year out. Now, for you New York fans that are listening, do not crucify me. I still support the Knicks losing, and I do go to Knicks games. Nets, the Nets are from New Jersey. Let's just get that out there. So I love the Phoenix Suns. I went to a game, and I got an autograph from Steve Nash, Shawn Marion, Amari Stoudemire, and I just like, okay, yeah, they're cool, they're great. I just so happen to just love it. Love the guys, love the culture that they had, and just been a fan ever since.
No, I don't blame you, man. So the funny thing about the Suns, though, Smoochy, I just got to give you this info. A couple years back, a company I was working for, we had an event in Phoenix. We were there for 3 days. We finished up the event one night, and literally the arena was right across the street from the convention center. So I walked across the street after we packed everything up. I was still in my clothes that I had for the company. I didn't even have time to go back to the hotel. I just walked across the street, and I was like, I'm going to see if I can get a ticket to this game. It was the Suns and the Rockets. Got to, I paid less than $20, sat in the very last row. But I could say, I went to see, a Phoenix Suns game. So I've been to Phoenix for a game. I've been to Portland a handful of times, like 2 or 3, and then I've been to Utah many times in my career, or in my life, sorry. So I've been there, been able to see some games, but now I can say I saw a Phoenix Suns game. In regards to the Suns, though, do they have the new Shaq and Kobe? Do you really think that Booker and Ayton are going to be, or Ayton, however you want to pronounce it, do you think that they're going to be the next Shaq and Kobe for real?
I don't want to go that far because the Shaq and Kobe experience, it was great for championships, but it was bad for locker room. I do hope that it just raises the expectations on the losing, it just abolishes the losing culture because we've been tanking for a very long time. So for us to finally get the missing piece that the Phoenix franchise always needed was a center. And you know what? I really wasn't a fan of DeAndre Ayton. I was a Mo Bamba fan because I followed Mo Bamba. I watched him play ever since he was in middle school. And, I said, hey, Mo Bamba's going to be the first pick. But once I really was able to see DeAndre Ayton in person, live and direct, oh, man, he's going to be definitely an immediate impact in his draft class.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think that I was of the same mindset as you when it came to Ayton, because he came here for the first round of the tournament, and he shrank when the team needed him the most. But now that I'm looking back at it, I think it was mainly because he wanted to go to the NBA. He was checked out. And I don't usually use that excuse, very often for players, but the reason I'm even kind of excusing it is because of the fact that now I see how he presents himself. He's very professional, very well-spoken in all of his interviews. He says the right thing. I think Ayton's ready for the NBA. I just think it's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how they do because I think the Suns have an amazing core.
Yeah, I'm interested too. I feel that Ayton is what I call the right now pick with Bamba. Bamba is going to be the development pick. Over the course of time. But, with the state that Phoenix is in, Phoenix wants to win, and they want to win now in that loaded Western Conference. You had to go with DeAndre Ayton. He's very marketable. He's great offensively. He's going to be mentored. He's going to be taught defense because he's going to be mentored by Tyson Chandler, who is known as a defensive acre on the defensive end. So I'm excited for the season.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. I'm excited too. So I'm excited to see what happens. I don't think the Suns make the playoffs this year. I think they need another year. The thing is, in the West, I think the Warriors have just a few years left of them, maybe 1 or 2 more good runs with them. But what people don't realize is typically you get about 4 years. You get about 4 years with an NBA organization, the way that, contracts are structured these days. And that's about it before you have to start moving some major pieces around and such. I mean, the Warriors have done a good job at keeping everybody, but I just don't think, I think in about a year or 2, they might have to, they'll taper off, still be a playoff team. I just don't know if they'll be as lethal as they are. And then maybe that's an opportunity when certain teams start dropping down and, the Suns are ready to come up and take that spot.
Well, the funny thing is people don't know how important Steve Kerr is in that culture. Steve Kerr used to be a GM himself. Before he was a GM, he was the San Antonio Spurs, and he was a Chicago Bull. So he's always been a part of a winning culture. He understands the nuances of opting in, doing 1-year contracts, which the Chicago Bulls did with Jordan, just doing the 1-year max deal, learning different contract tips through Dennis Rodman, who most people don't know negotiated Michael Jordan's 1-year contract because he was an arbitrator at the time. And when he got to San Antonio, the whole opting in experience. So he was GM for the Suns. So when he gets to this Golden State culture, hey, he's telling the management, hey, look, this is how we can pretty much beat the system. Yeah. So yeah, hey, he tells Kevin, he tells people in the front office, hey, look, there's only going to be 3 people here that's going to sign the lifetime contracts. That's Steph, Clay, and Draymond. The rest of you guys, the pieces, you could sign here for the next 3 years. And that's how we're going to keep the ball rolling. So you never hear anybody outside of Steph, Clay, and Draymond signing no more than 2 or 3 years.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to Steve Kerr. Like, they've beaten the system financially in the NBA. So people are trying to wonder how they can afford Steph and Clay and Draymond. It's because, the NBA, you have to just make sure you're under the yearly cap. And that's what they're going to do. So how they have Steph set up is he'll make money over time, but each year his base salary drops. And each year that his base salary drops, his endorsements go up. So you ever see that one year Steph Curry just promotes his camps or makes a whole lot of golf shoes, which are his basketball shoes? That is just the reason why.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I appreciate you being on the call with me today. You're extremely knowledgeable. Appreciate you sharing that information for the listeners who may not have already known that. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I've got Smoochy Davis on the phone with me all the way from New York City. Now, Smoochy, that is a great point about Steve Kerr. He does not get enough credit because he is like using it. He's a mastermind behind it. I mean, he learned from the greatest around the game, some of the very greatest in the game. So that's exactly, and they do exactly what they're supposed to do, and they do it well. They, everybody's in there for, they're unselfish. They're a very team-oriented organization, so it's awesome. And in regards to contracts, you're talking about these one-year deals. LeBron James is known for those one-year deals. Like he would go into the 1 year. Well, he does a 2 year with an opt-in clause after like a player option after the first year. But I kind of want your take on this because you see the difference between LeBron James and then players like Carmelo Anthony. And Carmelo Anthony, he went for the money when he was in New York. He took the mega deal, took the money, and basically he got paid, and he still got paid out this year, but you could kind of see how his career derailed because of his injuries and such. Do you think it's smarter for players to take the money like Carmelo did and lock himself into an organization for 5 years, let's say? Or is it smarter to do the 1 year deals and, basically take care of your body and kind of bet on yourself for that matter?
Well, and I'm glad you asked me this. It's always a tricky scenario. LeBron James, he spends $1 million. Last time I checked, I did the research on this. $1.3 million every year on his body.
Gosh, that's such a large amount of money.
You think about that. His physical condition, the reason why he's the best player, a top 5 player in year 15, because he spends $1.3 million on his body alone. So, and he gets it back through incentives, through his net worth outside off the court. Melo, one of the reasons why he went to New York was the New York millions were going to be more essential to him than any other market, like a Chicago, like a Miami. So he went with what was just more marketable to him, and it was just New York at the time. Now, do I agree with him taking the max? Yeah, that's what you work hard for, right?
Well, in your words, yeah, and I'm just kidding with you, Smoochy, but for real, I mean, Carmelo earned that money because at the time he was a superstar that was, a top player in the league. So, I mean, at that time he was the superstar. I believe he earned it. I mean, that's me.
Well, and here's the funky fact about Carmelo Anthony. His 7-year stint in New York, if I remember correctly, he was averaging 23 points in New York. That's barring, and that's with the injuries.
Yeah, Carmelo played really well. If this is what's crazy is people forget so quickly about how good he did play for a couple of years there in New York. He had a few injuries, but he was still scoring. And just it was like the last 2 seasons really that things just went down because he had that negative, media portrayal that just put him in a bad light, I guess, and just, didn't look like he was a good team player. And then OKC, he had that, it was a pretty bad season in his standards, but he averaged 16 a game as a third, sometimes fourth option. He was coming off the bench at times, and he wasn't playing his role. He still averaged 16 a game. I think he's got something left in the tank. In regards to basketball, though, I kind of want to talk about this Kawhi Leonard trade to Toronto. Everybody kept arguing with me saying, it's a 1-year rental versus a 3-year deal with DeRozan, right? So Toronto didn't win the trade because it was a 1-year rental. We know he's leaving after the season. And I know those are the obvious arguments. I know it's a 1-year rental. I get that. But I kept saying that Toronto won that trade because they immediately, in my opinion, became contenders. Well, then just go figure. A couple days later, a few analysts come out there, Colin Cowherd, Jalen Rose. They were very vocal about the fact that they believe that Toronto won the trade because they're going to be able to compete immediately for a championship. Now, I don't think anyone beats the Warriors, but I think they're banking on possibly having Kawhi stay there after the season if they can win, right? If they can win, Kawhi stays there, and or at least if they can get to the finals, maybe Kawhi stays there because we all thought Paul George was heading to LA, and he came right back to OKC, and they didn't even get out of the first round for crying out loud. So I think Toronto won that trade. Because, honestly, just 2 years ago, before his injury and everything, Kawhi Leonard was literally second or sometimes ranked first as the best player in the NBA. I mean, he was literally the first or second best player in the NBA. And as Nick Wright pointed out, he finished first-team All-NBA in front of Kevin Durant. Like, Kawhi Leonard, people forget sometimes how good this player is and how he can truly change a franchise. So I think Toronto just got a monster deal on that.
Well, no, Kawhi Leonard is by all means a superstar in this league. What I would want to see if it was DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi Leonard, and they moved the Kyle Lowry contract, I would easily told you, hey, Toronto's the best team in the Eastern Conference because now it gives DeMar DeRozan the proper help that he needs to take it to the next level. They still have to fix the April kryptonite with Kyle Lowry, which maybe Kawhi could fix. I don't know. But it's just something they really have. You just have to wait till the season to work out. That just says a lot for the Spurs culture. Like, I remember people wanting to go play for the Spurs and the Spurs were turning people down. And I just found this out the other day. The whole 2014 starting 5 from that San Antonio Spurs team are no longer San Antonio Spurs.
Man, that's a really good point because, yeah, they're all gone. They really are all gone, that starting 5. Now, the thing is, though, with Toronto getting Kawhi, what it really does, though, is it makes things exciting. It's not just Boston and Philly in the East. You got Toronto back up there to compete. And unfortunately, DeRozan just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. I think Kawhi has, proven that he can. DeRozan deserves his spot in Toronto's history because he was loyal to that team. He was. And so there's nothing bad about that, but I think this is going to make the Eastern Conference much more exciting, much more competitive, and that's what I'm excited for as an NBA fan.
I totally agree with you. There's no more of the LeBron Invitational, which I call the Eastern Conference playoffs. So the East is officially wide open this year. So I'm glad to see that. But the West has become, oh man, a dogfight.
Yeah, a dogfight's right, man, and it's only going to get better from here because it seems like we have a potential for even 1 or 2 more superstars coming over to the West. It's potential that, obviously we were just talking about Kawhi could leave and come over to LA or whatever he wants to do in 19, and there's more free agents on the market. It could get even more loaded than it is. It's going to be entertaining.
Look, I just hope Carmelo goes to the East so he can go back to the All-Star game so he could be Melo again.
Yeah, I think he has to go to the East if he wants to get in the All-Star game. He's not making it out of the West, even though I do think he'll have a decent season if he gets to stay with the Rockets and play. I think he's got something left in the tank. Now, Smoochy, I want to talk about podcasting. I know I want you to expand upon the Legion of Greatness, because you and I are both podcasters. We host shows and we discuss things with other people, and we know what it's like to go into this. And podcasting is such an awesome world. Just talking to people and getting to know people and just discussing different things and reaching different outlets. I want you to talk about that. Expand upon the Legion of Greatness, what that is, and what you've got going on over there.
Well, thank you. And the Legion of Greatness, it's a podcast network which I started 3 years ago. It started out with one sports show, and then it just expanded to a plethora of shows. We cover politics, we cover fashion, we dab in a little bit of music and entertainment, but definitely sports is our staple. I just felt that when you do podcasts, it's you shouldn't put yourself in a box. Hey, why not go ahead and expand your horizons? And quiet as it's kept, podcast is literally the big time wave now. When I first jumped into it, it was called internet radio, and people looked at it was just like, we don't know how this is going to pan out. Now, you listen to more podcasts in your car, on your phone, than the actual radio station that gets paid a whole lot of money to be there. So it's great to see different people like yourself get on podcasts, because it really gives a different perspective and different views and gives us, I guess, regular guys a voice as well, because you'd be surprised. The same stuff that you're saying, ESPN will say, or Fox Sports will say, or any other major sports platform, they'll have it, So I just think that the podcasting networks, such as mine, is just giving people a voice that normally other people wouldn't listen to.
Yeah, exactly. Giving them a voice. I have said that forever. My show acts as a voice not only for myself, but for other guests as well. I like to share my passion with the world, and I'm not on the mainstream outlets like Fox Sports News and you got ESPN, CBS Sports, all those outlets. I'm not on those networks and such. So this gives me an outlet. So I love that. I love that you said that. It acts as a voice. In regards to the Legion of Greatness, I love what you've got going on with the podcast network, because you're dabbing into different markets, fashion, sports, whatever. What's the name of the shows that we can listen to, and where can we find you?
Different podcasts, like one show is called About Your Business. This is a show where we invite different entrepreneurs to come on. It doesn't matter where you're at. You literally come on the show and you talk about your business. It's a great way to promote your business, your brand, and what you're doing for the community. Another show that we did, it was called Ball is Life. Of course, self-explanatory. It's about sports, but it was literally outside of the box. We didn't just talk about sports. We invited people that worked in the sports field. So you could be a coach, you could be a GM, you could be an agent, you could be a scout, you could be a part of a sports marketing team, because those are the people that make the world of sports go round. So I was able to do that show, and it was really awesome. I loved it, and it really has opened so many doors for the network, where, my network, we'll do camps, we'll do special events, we're doing community events as well. So for you guys out there that have a podcast, don't be afraid to put your podcast out there for, to do events like live drafts. The fantasy football drafts. Hey, that's a great way to go out there and market yourself. I believe one of the things that people are always trying to wonder is, well, how can they get paid from doing their podcast? How can you make money? And one of the best things I've done, and I encourage other people to do it, is, hey, go out there and just see what events that you and your podcast could do. And you'll be surprised. The reception that you get, everybody wants to be either seen or they want to be heard. You just really have to think outside the box for your podcast to be successful. And I've been blessed to do that with the Legion of Greatness.
I love it, man. That is so motivating because I'm in the same spot. I'm trying to find different ways to branch out. I have a newsletter now. I'm trying to branch out and see if I can promote my brand and, gain some followers and help this thing grow. Now, in regards to your podcast for sports, I want to know, who was your favorite interview? You talked about, GMs, agents, coaches, whoever else. Who was your favorite interview that you had on there as a guest?
One of my favorite interviews, he's a co-host with me right now on my network. His name is James Garner. He was an ESPN guy, and it was just great because I was able to really just talk to a lot of ESPN people, bumped into guys like Marcus Spears, Chris Berman, Chris Mortensen, Randy Moss, guys that worked on ESPN, and just to sit there and just talk to them about sports. And these guys deal with the athletes all the time. So him and, my man James, he dealt with those guys every day on a regular basis. And for him to come on my show and we talked and we chopped it up, and he just said, hey, man, I love your show. I love your platform. And for us to be, doing a show right now called the Urban Outcast, it's just great. I love it, man. So he's definitely one of the best guests I've had. And, especially when you match him with an ESPN guy, you got to make sure your stuff is on point.
Yeah, no, for sure. No doubt. Now, Smoochy, you mentioned all the podcasts. Where can we find you, man?
You can find us right there on the Legion of Greatness Network. We're right there on Facebook. We just branched out to YouTube. That's where we post in. If you're in the New York area, we do put our shows out on public access TV as well. If you're in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, we are out there as well. We're trying to work on getting on public access TV in Charlotte, North Carolina as well. But, hey, Legion of Greatness Network, right there on Facebook. You can catch all our shows. You can listen to all our podcasts on there. Definitely appreciate and love the support. And it's definitely a great thing that I'm grateful for.
Absolutely, man. And Smoochy, I appreciate you joining me this morning and having this discussion with me. So if you have any advice for my listeners or anyone, like maybe in the future you and I could join forces, who knows, and we could, help, team up together to deliver this panoramic view on sports. Who knows, right?
Man, I would definitely love to. And for all you listeners out there, I cannot get off this show without thanking my man Shane Lawson for definitely bringing a different dynamic. Thank you, Shane. You're a stand-up guy. Thank you for working with me. I understand that bringing me to this platform, Sprint did something stupid and and messed it all up. But I truly do appreciate you, Shane, and shout out to Sprint because hey, they gave me too much free on my bill. So
can't beat free, right? I appreciate you, Smoochy, and I hope you guys all enjoyed this. Make sure to check out the Legion of Greatness Podcast Network. Go find it on Facebook and YouTube. You can follow Smoochy there and listen to his shows that he just mentioned there. And like I said, who knows? Maybe one day him and I can collab, and Game Time Guru and the Legion of Greatness can, team up, join forces, and deliver a panoramic view on sports. For the time being, make sure you guys check it out. Make sure you follow my newsletter. The link is here in the description. You want to go to my Instagram page and follow me there too, because I have the link for my newsletter there. We're going to be doing giveaways. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff. So you're going to meet my guests through my newsletter. You're going to get to know me a little bit better through my newsletter. And yeah, you're going to win free stuff, merchandise, all sorts of things. So make sure to check that out. And you guys know the drill. Subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review, it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.